You know, after watching episode 2 of Golden Kamuy, I could safely say that I love this series. Like, it's pretty fun. Like, I'm having a lot of fun watching this series, and I'm starting to see why this series was recommended so much to me over these years. I'm starting to see the reason why. It definitely has those themes and certain things that happen throughout the episode that I personally enjoy. Like, it has a nice mixture of comedy, serious tone, and then world building to it. That's what really tickles me the most when I'm trying to watch a series, especially if it's a seinen. I mean, when you're getting more information about the Ainu and all that, it really makes me interested and invested in the series, wanting to know more about their culture. I mean, I know not many are probably going to care about that aspect of, like, you know, the Ainu and stuff, but I find it really cool. I was finding it really cool seeing their, like, culture, because it's so different from the normal anime and manga I see, because, see, over the years, I have watched so many anime and read so many manga, I've kind of come to understand a little bit, not a lot, but a little bit of Japanese culture. And seeing how in this series we have the Ainu, it's kind of like I'm trying to learn an entirely different culture. I'm starting to see like a completely foreign culture that you don't see often in anime, and it adds for a very different viewing experience for me, because you just don't see stuff like that. Because I'm so used to when someone says, like, you know, thank you for the food, they're like, I'm probably gonna just butcher the word, ikadakimasu, or whatever, you know, I just butchered that word. But you know what I mean, thank you for the food, the Japanese saying for it. And when you see that in this episode, she's like, Hina, and all that, I'm like, yo, that's really, that's cool. I just like little segments like that. But, okay, before we get any further, though, if I look a little bit tired or off or whatever, a little bit drained, it's been a long day, and I'm a little bit tired as well, a little bit stressed, but, you know, everything must go on. So things cannot be stopped just because someone's a little bit stressed or tired. But I just wanted to point that out. If I do, forgive me on that. I'm fine. I'm not sick or anything, so don't worry. Okay, so this episode was a lot better than the first one. And the reason why I say that is because I don't think there's going to be many reasons for many to complain about this episode. See, the big complaint last week was because of the CGI bear. I've discussed this a lot in my first impressions of Golden Kamuy, and thankfully with this episode, there was really no CGI, especially that, like, atrocious of CGI. And yes, as I admit in my last, you know, episode review, my first impressions, that it was bad, but it wasn't nothing that ruined the episode for me. And after talking with the manga readers and getting a good understanding of why many were concerned, I now realize why they were upset. And I kind of want to address that before I get into the meat of this episode, talking about the details and stuff. So the reason why the manga readers were a little bit upset, and it wasn't just the anime onlys, but the manga readers were upset because when it comes to bears and stuff, apparently in this series, they are a big focus, or in general, wildlife is a focus for Golden Kamuy, and so seeing bears like that, it made everybody upset, because that means that later on in the future for Golden Kamuy, when there is more bears and stuff, we're going to see CGI like that, which disturbs people, because apparently there's some really iconic moments for Golden Kamuy when it comes to bears or wildlife. And after seeing this episode, I could see why people would be concerned, because there was like the hunting segment and all that, setting traps for squirrels. I mean, there's little things here and there, so I could see why some were concerned. But still, even at the end of the day, yes, the CGI looked bad, but it was nothing that I think should have destroyed the series, because after asking the manga readers about the adaptation-wise, apparently, once again, this episode did a fantastic job with adapting the core content from the manga. Apparently, there was, like, something cut out from, you know, our MC, a little detail on his past, but as someone told me that it could easily be added in later on, so it's nothing major at the moment. So from what I've been told so far, the adaptation of this series is pretty spot on, which makes me very happy, because it's very rare nowadays to see a seinen done justice and done right, and either a seinen is done right but it's full CGI, or a seinen is just completely demolished. TG, for example, Berserk, another example. And so I'm just glad that it seems like this series, at the very least, is a lot better than the normal seinen anime adaptation. So I'm pleased to actually be able to say that. So, anyways, getting into episode 2, there was a lot of comedy. A lot of comedy. Like, more comedy than I expected from this series. I mean, there was some some certain funny moments with the first episode, don't get me wrong, and some of them were obviously unintentional when it came to the CGI bear with, our MC just punching him in the face and all that. It was funny. But I mean, this legitimately had some funny segments, and I didn't think this series would really have certain segments like that. I mean, it would have a funny moment here or there. I mean, even Seinen series, even Tokyo Ghoul itself or Berserk, they have funny moments, even though they're very depressing. So, I know that there was gonna be something funny, but having like a big chunk of the episode where our MC, he falls into, like, a river of water, he's freezing and all that, and then the prisoner's also freezing, and they just literally put aside their difference instantly just to be able to live, and I just couldn't help but laugh. Like, I was just sitting there laughing, but he's just like, we're gonna die, and he's just trying to warm up and all that. I'm like, yo, this is hilarious, because in reality, that's kind of how people would be. I mean, I know many might not think it was right, or it felt like it was out of character or something the way the scene was going, but that in reality is how people would be. Here, let me give some explanation here. Let's say there's a prisoner, like, what was happening this episode, you're the MC, you chase out this prisoner and all that, and you're trying to get information, kill him, whatever. Both of you fall into a life or death situation. You're in freezing cold water, and you realize if something's not done, you're going to die. And as a human being, we want to survive, okay? Your survival instincts are gonna start kicking in. You're not gonna want to die. And so you're gonna put aside your differences for your own survival. And so in that moment, when the MC started to look at the dude, he's like, we need to survive, we need to work together. He's like, if you don't want to die, get in this water. We gotta find some bullets. Yo. Like, I was just laughing. So, I mean, I like this segment. I think it, some might say it doesn't make sense for the way the episode was going, but at the same time, I think it really fits for the core context, since technically their lives were in danger, and if your life was in danger, you would do something like that too. So, just funny moments overall. I just didn't think the series would be that funny. It got a good chuckle out of me. Now, speaking of the series and its moments and stuff, this is a surprisingly in-depth cooking series. Now, I'm not saying it's at the level of Food Wars in terms of, like, real details of, cooking, but there was a nice little segment in this episode from the Ainu girl, kind of teaching us their culture and how they eat certain food, or especially squirrel. They chop up the meat and all that with the bones and everything, and they kind of eat it raw. And, from my perspective as someone that lives in the States, I don't actually eat raw food. That's not something I do, and many of you out there most likely can agree with me. When it comes to meat and stuff, it's a rarity probably to eat raw meat, especially something like that. You catching a squirrel, whatever, and, getting the meat cut up and then just eating it raw, especially what the MC did when he ate the squirrel brain, which that threw me for a loop. I was like, did this man just eat a freaking squirrel brain? Like, yo, he just ate a freaking squirrel brain. Like, what? In the face, like, it just, like, the way he's like, it's good. Yeah, just like, I don't know if I could do that. I mean, I'm all for eating nasty things and trying something new. I'm all for that. But just, like, the way that was done, I'm just like, I guess it makes sense. In some cultures, that is, what people would probably eat. And I want to ask a quick question, because I'm a little bit, new when it comes to Ainu culture and all that. If anyone knows, is that truly a dish? Like, is that what really the Ainu, like, certain ways they, make food for themselves? I'm assuming, like, the chitatap or whatever, when they were cutting the meat and all that, how they were swapping the knives back and forth. I'm assuming that's an actual technique they did, but if anyone knows, like, if they eat raw meat like that, if anyone can confirm, let me know, because that's pretty fascinating stuff. I've always loved series that dive into culture, and getting to learn more about the Ainu culture, it fascinates me, because it's something you just don't see often in anime and manga. I've seen it mentioned in Tokyo Ghoul, but it wasn't really dived into. It's used more as a symbolic message than anything else. So that's a really nice little moment of the episode. Now, speaking of food, let's talk about the hunting aspects of this series. I find it pretty cool how in this episode we get to see two different sides of hunting. We get to see hunting for animals for survival and cooking food, and then also hunting down humans. That was kind of like a theme with this episode. We have it where our two characters are trying to gather information on where potential prisoners can be, the escapees, and figure out where they're at before they can get the information on their tattoos for the map. And at the same time, they're capturing, like, squirrels, rabbits, and stuff like that to be able to eat. And I feel like that's kind of what the message of the episode is showing, that they were hunting human and beast at the same time. And I wonder if there was more meaning to that I didn't kind of comprehend. But, okay, so one thing I do want to point out, I want to talk about how it's very apparent from this episode that the Ainu is not really respected at all by the locals. Our main female character, she was being discriminated against multiple times, and she even says in this episode that she is used to it, which shows that it happens quite often. And, I mean, I guess this is to be expected, because, I mean, when you think about it, how their culture is different, and how they're, like, the rare, like, minority compared to everybody else, it makes sense people would discriminate against the Ainu. But it just, I wonder how big of a theme or a role that's gonna play with this series, because this is a seinen at the end of the day, and since she is our main female character and she's an Ainu, I'm curious if that's gonna be a big part of it. For instance, maybe people coming to terms with Ainu culture, or maybe how the Ainu culture really changes our MC, which that is something I do want to talk about, our MC and how he didn't actually kill people. So I was under the impression that our main character was going to kill people. Like, he was going to go skinning everybody alive to be able to get the map. But apparently, the Ainu girl, she's like, no, if I'm going to help you out, you're not doing that. We're just going to write these down, draw, and all that. Which, the way that was done, I guess, makes a lot more sense, because it's very savage when you think if the MC was going around just filleting people, skinning them alive, just to be able to get their tats. It's pretty scary. And I do believe that maybe there's going to come a time where the MC is going to probably have to do that. But, I mean, seeing how they're going down the peaceful route for the most part, that actually lets us know that the MC is trying to change, and he is not someone that's just killing for the sake of killing. But he does say that he's not necessarily a murderer, but he will do whatever it takes to survive. He does clarify that in this episode. So he's not against killing, but at the same time, he's someone that won't kill if he doesn't need to kill. So that's something I noticed with his character. But that's pretty much it, though. Golden Kamuy Episode 2 was a pretty fun watch. I have to say, it's definitely one of my favorites from this anime season. It has a lot of potential, has some really good content within, it has a really good cast of characters so far, and I also really like the music. And actually, that's something I forgot to mention. I don't really remember if the opening song was in the first episode or not, or if I talked about it. I don't know. So, if I forgot, forgive me. I'm a little bit tired, a little bit, like, whoopy right now, or loopy. Oh, whoopy. I'm a little bit loopy right now, so just forgive me for that. But, the opening song for this episode, gotta say, visual-wise, it's actually such a good opening. Oh, it's probably one of my faves. It's good. It's really, really good. But okay, I want to end it here. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy my content, please subscribe. If you like this video, please leave a like. And I love you guys. Have a wonderful day or night, wherever you live. Chibi out.